All right, we're back to the Jaguars here, who also I saw Jaguar beat writer. Do y'all follow John Shipley? Jaguar beat writer, love the guy. Sarcastic, good reporter, plugged in. He's by far the best Jaguar beat writer there's ever been, at least in my time in the fantasy industry. And he is
he attacked me last year.
He did?
Yeah, he thought I was just like some nobody fantasy guy who doesn't know.
Oh, he got into you with about Trevor, right?
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence being overrated, and then what happened after that. Yeah,
I still haven't seen. I think part of the thing is having to separate overrated from sucks, right?
Yeah,
because Trevor doesn't suck, but
but he's undoubtedly overrated. And then the Jaguars are going to have to give him top 3 QB money this year. And has he played like that at all? No.
Well, maybe they can help him with a wide receiver here. So the Jaguars, though, but John, who does come on the podcast, he's a good guy. He comes on the podcast, but the Jaguars.
Oh yeah, no hard feelings.
Yeah, the Jaguars could use a corner here. Hey, look, I mean, Jaguars fans haven't had a quarterback since. I guess David Garrard, but before that, Mark Brunell. So it's Trevor's obviously their
career games with 333 passing yards or more. Trevor Lawrence 2, CJ Stroud 4.
Wow.
Trevor Lawrence has been in the league for 3 years.
Wow. Of course, the first year was Urban, but still. Nonetheless, the Jags are on the clock now. Quinyon Mitchell from Toledo goes to the Eagles, and he is in an all black suit. I wonder if his shoes are lavender.
I'm going to guess Brian Thomas. That's my guess.
So yeah, Brian Thomas could come off the board here. Offensive line still on play for Dallas, Jacksonville. Green Bay, I think, is offensive line territory. Green Bay doesn't need a wide receiver at this point. We're still waiting out here for fantasy. Now, for fantasy, Brett, offensive line sure as hell matters. It's just not as much fun to talk about on here. And no veteran trades yet.
Yeah, we're getting in that range where they usually start to happen, right? The early 20s, mid 20s. So, yeah, I'm looking at my board right now. Yeah, Brian Thomas would be. This is about where my board says he should go. So he's the 23rd overall player on my board.
Well, this is the 23rd overall pick.
Yeah.
Maybe, I bet you know what? Look, Scott mentioned that the Jaguars have a wonderful analytics department. I guarantee you they just have the fantasy points prospect guy just right up on the big board right now.
That must be it.
And so they're just saying, well, wait a minute. Well, this is 23 and there's 23. Put 2 and 2 together. There you go.
I don't want to be the one to say it, but if you're an NFL team and you want to miss on receivers less, then just let me pick the players for you.
Yeah,
Brett's track record with wide receivers is crazy.
So
my prospect model's good, but especially after last year.
Over like the last 10 years, don't you have AJ? Didn't you have pre-draft AJ Brown like one of your 5 best receivers, and he was like the 6th receiver in his own class?
Yeah.
I think that's why you love AJ so much, because you were so high on him, and obviously you love him because he's an awesome player, but
making me look good.
Well, I liked him a lot too. I think I had him. Well, I liked him and Hollywood Brown too. I'm like, no, these are both definitely round 1 wide receivers. When everyone else was like, there's not a round 1 wide receiver in the class.
I had 4 round 1 grades.
You had Metcalf too.
I had Metcalf and Debo.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Eugene Fournette, longtime Jaguar beat writer, who has the most hilarious, by the way, Twitter avatar of all time. It is the most low-res picture at Gene Fournette on Twitter. Scott, you called it. Brian Thomas is a Jacksonville Jaguar. All right, so talk them out, boys. I want to hear both sides again, and I want to hear it within the scheme fit and the quarterback fit as well, since we know he's a Jaguar.
This is nice. This is trade down for Brian Thomas. That's fine. That's a good move by the Jaguars. Smells like a bulky guy. Traits plus athleticism. For fantasy, it's just not something I want to get excited about. It's like Doug Peterson wide receivers always underwhelm for fantasy. Always. And this is a guy who I worry about this, is that he projects as a one-trick pony, a deep threat only. 50% of his yards came on the go route last year. And that's an archetype that the NFL covets, but is less valuable in fantasy. And then not only that, but it might be less valuable in today's day and age, given the rise of too high coverage designed to shut down the deep ball. I would like to hear Brett's thoughts on like the Jaguars offense and like why this is so important to them and why they went so hard after Calvin Ridley and like why they felt they needed a wide receiver after also adding Gabe Davis and what their plans are. But to me, this isn't something to get excited about for Dynasty. And, if I have the pick and Brian Thomas Jr. is the next guy by ADP, I'm selling that pick because there's going to be way more people who are excited about Brian Thomas than I am.
Yeah. So Scott, we have to stop with, this guy did this in college, which means he's only doing this in the pros. That's not.
I mean, you just have to understand, like I'm working off of the analytics and I'm just saying it's a concern that this is all he did. Maybe if I wasn't talking to the best film expert ever, these conversations would be a lot easier where I'd just be like, well, that's an assumption you're making. He can do that. And it's reliant on how good of an evaluator you are. You happen to be the best. And so because of that, I just try and I work with you as part of a process where I incorporate your film grade and I raise concerns and questions, and then you address those to me privately or in your own work. And so, yeah, these are the questions for the people at home. But like when Brett says it's not an issue, he could be more than that. I really do tend to believe him.
So Brian Thomas, elite body control, and that is by far the number one trait for wide receivers. It translates to every single thing that they'll be asked to do in the NFL. It translates to run after catch ability. It translates to route running ability. And I know pretty much only runs that vertical route tree right now because the LSU offense, that's what they do. It's a completely vertical offense. But man, I even showed you some reps when we watched them live, Scott, of just really good body control and route running ability where, there's no wasted movements. He has that super, even how, tall and long he is, he has that super compact route running style where he can explode out of those breaks. He can sink those hips, drop that weight on a dime. I think eventually he turns into a phenomenal route runner. And it might not be right away, but I still think like he's going to get a heavy diet of slants, going to get a heavy diet of, deep crossers in the Peterson offense. Like that's going to be his role. Gabe Davis is going to be more the pure vertical guy, in my opinion, where Thomas is going to be a lot of the X. But from a fantasy standpoint, I actually don't love this. Crowded target. I mean, there's target hogs all over the place, and Christian Kirk has been a target hog there. Evan Ingram gets a lot of targets. They added Gabe Davis. Travis Etienne can catch the ball in the backfield. So there's just a lot of mouths to feed now, and they're going to play with the quarterback who hasn't really lived up to the hype so far. So, and John Costco just elegantly pointed out Treylon Burks had no body control, and that's exactly correct. Exactly correct.
Right. He looked like Bambi out there. That's what you said. And it was so true. Like people talked about him as like Lance Zierlein said he was AJ Brown with more wiggle. And then we watched the film and like the dude ran the most rounded out route I've ever seen. He was getting screens and he was falling over himself. And like, what did you say? The guy was playing like the opposite of the floor is lava, or he just like he was like magnetically pulled to the ground.
Yes.
That was not there. By the way, that was not an uncommon comparison. Greg Cosell made the same one. And again, as Greg will always say, he's like, when he makes a comparison like that, he makes it to the player when they were coming out of college.
There were like 15 sentences of, well, Ross, as you know, I don't like comps, but I do stylistically, this player reminds me, but you have to understand. Yeah.
But the age,
me.